Hey everyone, what up? Matt Kaiser here. Well everyone, this is it. The last piece of content for Fate Samurai Remnant is here. If you're surprised that this is the last one that has already dropped, I'm actually more surprised on how this game got more post-launch content than say a lot of other licensed warrior titles made by Omega Force themselves, with of course the recent exception being Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. However, this one does seem to be, at least compared to the other DLC expansions, the most ambitious, being called Bailong and the Crimson Demon. Nope, not that Crimson Demon. And also, the devs themselves have dubbed this as the most Koei Tecmo. And these things involve having a brand new rogue rider servant, Zhao Yong, a famous general within the Three Kingdoms, which, as you guys know from my Bailong Fallen Dynasty review, you know that is an event that Koei Tecmo has capitalized on, with things like the Romance of the Three Kingdoms series, and of course, Dynasty Warriors, the latter of which has been able to finally get a brand new entry in over 6 years. Anywho, back on track. On top of Zhao Yong making his debut, we also have another rogue servant in terms of this, bird mama here. And Yui Shosetsu is a child? And it also seems that the rival servants and masters, except Caster, have decided to align with Iori and Saber, as well as Zhao Yong, in the hopes of battling a new mysterious and dangerous threat that would spell disaster for Edo. Anywho, with that all said and done, before we begin, if you like what you're seeing here, then by all means, like the video, click the subscribe button if you're new, and hit that bell notification icon if you want more reviews like this from yours truly. Not only that, but I'm currently in the middle of playing Persona 5 Royal, and hopefully before this year ends, I'll be able to deliver my long-awaited 750 subscriber special of Persona 5 Royal. So please, do look forward to that as you can. With that said, let's get back to the video. And without further ado, let's tell off Musashi, protect little Yui, and ready for one last ride as we head straight into Fate Samurai Remnant, Bailong and the Crimson Demon. So our story begins in Edo, where oddly enough, the children residing in Yoshiwara mysteriously disappear. Oh great, is it a work of that crazy guy from Fate Zero, but its ancestor instead? Is Gillies gonna be in this game? Is Gillies and John gonna be interacting in this? Not only that, but moving on, we also know that the ley lines of Edo have also been mysteriously stolen by a new powerful bird demon, and things like a brand new rogue servant has been summoned with his own quest involved in the chaos, and Yui being only reverted to a child, with a potential greater threat that would likely cause doom to all of Edo and its people. The masters and the servants will have to put their difference aside and team up alongside the new servant to stop this new dangerous foe, with the hopes of not only saving the children that has been taken away, but also restoring Yui back to normal, as well as aiding this new rogue servant's own quest, on top of recovering the stolen ley lines that would shield Edo from a worse fate.
Hey, that's the name of the show.
And that is the story. And I have to say, I actually enjoyed it a lot more than I would expect it to be, as opposed to the first one, which was more lighthearted, and the second one, that while had some stakes, was more self-contained. However, this one had a more ton of stakes involved, to the point that the rival masters and servants would have to work together, with them sharing a similar goal, as well as the interesting backstory of our main new threat, and details of our new rogue rider servant, on top of, even surprisingly enough, giving a lot more character growth for Yui Shosetsu than I even expected, and she was already one of the better written characters in the game in my opinion, so this was a welcome surprise, on top of also showing like a character trait for Jean as well as Sumikado, I hope I'm not butchering that, and also the return of the Musashi Smugface. And more antics with Musashi. Though, what else made this also pretty good would have to be, of course, the new Rogue Rider servant, Zhao Yun, who Three Kingdom fans as well as Dynasty Warriors fans should be familiar with, among also sprinkling some nice Three Kingdom references, like mentions of Liu Bei, Yuan Shou, and Zhang Fei, and of course, both Xiao and also Archer, who is actually Zhao Yu, also from the Three Kingdoms. They also have some really good banter together and some nice interactions sprinkled in. But outside of some nice fan service, his resolve and desperation of finding Liu Bei's son who's been taken by this new entity was also compelling as well, and actually made me feel for the guy. As for the new entity, who's also a new rogue servant and the main antagonist, Kishimo Jin, without any spoilers mind you, was also a compelling one, as her motives of why the way she is was also very gripping, and the ending itself was pretty solid. Also, apart from frames, I think we found ourselves a new competitor for the first DLC with the Snake Mommy herself, with having, of course, the Bird Mommy. Mommy? Though that being said, I really did like the story. But that being said, I think some parts could have been fleshed out a little more, like the cooperation of the masters and servants, having like segments of their own throughout the game, as the only ones you have that sort of first stretch would have to be sabers, lancers, and archers. As sadly, Berserkers and Assassins one is stretched to a bit thin, to the point it's even non-existent, where while they do contribute to the story, it's mainly through off-screen or dialogue. And also, Caster was a no-show in this game, and even near the end, one of the servant teams just bounced out, and only came back at the end, which was certainly a decision. Regardless of that, there was still an enjoyable DLC. Now obviously, like the past DLCs, this is also a side story that takes around chapter 3, so despite the title of this video, this DLC is not meant to be like an epilogue or a brand new ending for the game, which honestly, given that this game already has multiple endings, it will be a stretch for them to put a DLC that gives you another ending to obtain. So when it comes to gameplay, it's pretty much what you expect in the base game. Though with like the other previous DLCs, there are some neat additions here around, among the obvious two inclusions. Where the last DLC would give Iori a new skill tree, this one however gives Saber a new one as well, with some improved and buffed heavy attacks, as well as a brand new affinity technique, which is a nice gesture, as honestly they all look really nice and feel really good. As for other things, you also get to play as both Jean and Zhao for a short bit of time, which was appreciated, though it's really disappointing that the other servants couldn't have a playable segment to themselves, or even use that substitution mechanic from DLC 1 in Berserker's route. Disappointed! Anywho, let's move on to brand new additions, which of course involves the Rogue Rider servant Zhao Yun, and the Rogue Berserker servant and main antagonist Kishimo Jin. The former of which himself is probably the best one to play out of the entire new DLCs, with his moveset that have these really cool slick animations and just have cool combo moves that make him really fun to play. And honestly, it just makes his moveset really more fun, especially for anyone who's into Dynasty Warriors will get a kick out of him. Also, his Noble Phantasm is pretty neat, though I think it could have been a little bit flashier in my opinion. And then we have Kishimo Jin, who's kind of similar to say Ibuki Doji, as she's a big mummy, and I mean literally big, with her attacks feeling more slower and moveset, though more strong per se, but not as entirely maneuverable, so she's definitely a big target. And as for Noble Phantasm, it's basically similar to Assassins where you are able to go giant full god boss mode, and it's more cooler in that regard, Not my favorite, but it's pretty nice. As for the bosses, there's a little bit more variety here, though 3 of them are just reskin generics that has some slight alterations, like this frozen demon puppet here, though we do at least have 3 new original bosses, which of course includes the 2 new servants, one of which is the final boss, as well as the bird demon, a lot of them being pretty hard and actually quite fun to deal with. Though I am not a big fan of them, having some of them being scripted and interrupted with a cutscene at times. That really got annoying. One thing that I've kind of glossed about in my other DLC reviews of this game is that they also had some new music tracks, which, while that is the case, it's just only a small amount that you can barely even notice, with the first DLC having like 2 new tracks, while the second one had like only just, well, 1. And this DLC also has a new track, and while I'll say the former ones are solid to the point that they're not as strong, the latter one is an absolute banger. So, to make up for it, I'll play a showcase of 1 track per DLC in this segment. And now lastly, we get to how much you get for $14, which is about the same price as the other 2 expansions. Though this one does seem to be a fair balance of the first 2 mixed with content. Now the base campaign runtime will take you around say to 3.5 to around 4 hours. Nope, not doing that again. And aside from new workshop renovations and new mountains you get, there's also a new digression, which you get after beating the campaign, where it does resolve a core plot point of the DLC, and allows you to play and recruit Kishimo Jin, and both her and Zhao Yong have their own skill trees to unlock. And lastly, beforehand, you of course get new Bowery collections from the DLC itself, which includes fighting Zhao, the new enemy mobs, and the final boss, as well as able to play as Zhao and Kishimo Jin in nearly every boss week collection, and also you even have a brand new location for this DLC. So with that, is this DLC a good enough note to end on for Fate Samurai Remnant? Well, with all that said, I'll have to say yes, as out of all the DLCs, this is easily the best one they made, and I feel like they did pour a lot into making it a pretty good last piece of content, from having things like an enjoyable story to having even some welcome additional character growth for Yui Shosetsu, as well as even some solid fan service for the Three Kingdom fans, as well as of course having 2 new servants to play as, new boss recollections, and a new digression. Sure, it's not entirely perfect, as obviously there are some things that definitely felt like was hampered by either budget or time constraints, and this is nowhere meant to be like an epilogue like say Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Future Redeemed, where while that game was a prequel to Xenoblade Chronicles 3, it did have an extended ending that happened after the base game's ending, which obviously concluded the General Cloud saga. Or even something like say Square Enix's other DLCs that had extended / alternate endings, like Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind. It's not entirely essential for the base narrative of the main game, but what it does add is some pretty good extra content that's jam-packed with just having, lots of content for a game in general, if you include both the base game and the 1.70 patch in the mix. And if you like Fate Samurai Remnant, then I'm sure you'll like this DLC. If anything, I would recommend getting the Season Pass as you get all the 3 DLCs together at a much better bundled price than say buying them all together on their own. And you'll be getting things like say some new gameplay tweaks, new playable servants, some new interesting story bits and lore, on top of more boss recollections. Overall, I'll give Fate Samurai Remnant, Bailong and the Crimson Demon 4 Zhao Yungs out of 5. And with that, we are officially done with Fate Samurai Remnant. It was a long journey, but man was it a pleasure to cover and review this game in all of its entirety. Wonder what the future will hold now, as we know that Fate Samurai Remnant has sold over about 410,000 units, which isn't too bad. I know some painted that Koei Tecmo thinks that's underperformed, but that article does seem false, all things considered. And we obviously know now that the Tsukihime remake has already been revealed, and that Fate Stay Night Remastered is coming, and we also have the Fate Extra Record remake, which is still in the works, and hopefully we get more info on that soon. As for a new Fate title in the style of Fate Samurai Remnant, we'll have to wait and see if another can be made in the future. Obviously, Omega Force is going out with a brand new mainline Dynasty Warriors title, with Origins coming next year, which is a new entry in almost 7 years now, and maybe a subsidiary within Omega Force might make a new licensed Warriors game. Hopefully Nintendo will do one for Xenoblade Chronicles Warriors, please. But alas, what happens in the future, regardless of which, I can safely say that Fate Samurai Remnant, in general, is a great game for not only Fate fans and newcomers, so I urge anyone new to the series or fans of the series to get this. With that said, let me know in the comments down below if you guys played this DLC or if you guys played Fate Samurai Remnant in general. And until then, Mad Kaiser out.